Everyone, to episode number 236 of NoCoders Office Hours. I'm your host, Tanya, and I'm here with members Brittany and Ben. We're going to get started in just a moment, but if this is your first time tuning into Office Hours, let me tell you a little bit about it. We have a couple of different membership types at NoCoders. One is the Learners membership, where you can get access to our vault of videos, which are cataloged, tagged, and time-stamped. So to make it as easy as possible for you to find previous tutorial videos that we've done that cover the exact topic that you're looking for. And you can find not just the video, but the right point inside of the video that you need to watch in order to answer your questions. And then we also have the developer membership. And the developer membership is where we offer not just the vault, but also 6 times per week. We do Zoom sessions with our members, and they can come on and ask us any questions they want about Bubble, soon to be Xano. And we're looking at also adding a couple more no-code tools to that list pretty soon here. And 6 times per week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 a.m. Pacific time, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And then Mondays, we have a second session at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. And essentially, we can't promise to have all of the answers that you're looking for, but we do a pretty good job, and we get it right most of the time. So if you're looking for help with your no-code projects, please do go sign up at pronocoders.com today and come and meet us, because we'd love to meet you and see what you're up to. Hey, Brittany, how's it going? Hey, Ben.
Hey.
I think, Ben, you just got internet access back?
2 days, yeah. We had massive storms here. We've had no internet, so
I'm so sorry.
Let's got it back.
Glad you're back. Brittany, do you have questions for today?
Yes.
All right, well, you are welcome to take over the screen whenever you like.
Okay. Okay, so I have a question about this location. It's not working. I changed it from a search box, from it searching for a location into an input, but the way I have it set up, they can't move to the next page unless they have it, unless it's registered as a location. But for some reason, it's not, when I type in a full address, it's still not, I'm not exactly sure why it won't pick up that it's an address.
Got it. I'm going to pause the video right here for those of you who are watching this later, because I want to check into some things that might contain sensitive information for Brittany. So I'm going to pause and we'll be right back, and then I'll explain what we did. So if you were watching before, Brittany had asked about why wasn't the geographical address input working. And in order for that to work, you have to have your API keys filled out and working. So that's here. So if you go to settings and general and scroll down, you'll see there's 2 places to put your geocode API key and then your map API key. And if you click on this doc here, it'll take you to the documentation, and they have a really great Bubble tutorial telling you how to set up your API keys. Now, one thing to keep in mind is you do have to have a billing, you have to have a card on file in order for it to work. It'll work for a little while without adding the card on file, but at some point I've had lots of clients come back and they'll say, my map was working yesterday and then it suddenly stopped working. And it's generally that they have run out of their free trial stuff, so they need to put a card on file. So if yours suddenly stops working, that's generally where I would point you to go to figure that out. So we're going to continue on. Ben, do you have any questions for today?
To be honest, I didn't think my internet would work, so I don't have anything ready.
No worries. I'm glad it's back to working, though. That's really good. Yeah. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I do. I actually have the question on the chart that I think you and I went back and forth with a little bit ago, a couple days ago.
Yeah. Do you want to refresh my memory?
Yep. I can. Do you mind if I share real quickly? Just
go for it.
Kind of
yep. You can take over. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have basically what I track certain metrics on like actions in the app that like, let's just, I think Foursquare used to be an app at some point, maybe it still is, where you could like check in at locations.
Right.
We're kind of viewing this as like a business user seeing like simple data chart, if you will, of like interactions with their specific company.
Mhm.
And so I want to be able to do, and I'm going to replicate this for a couple different metrics, but it's just basically see like the total check-ins count in this kind of blue box. But ultimately what I'm seeing the issue with isn't the count, but the chart below, where I really want to just display all 12 months, whether we're like, right now we're only in February, but I want to see basically the entire 2022 calendar on the
Mhm.
bottom, just by
Okay.
month, and then be able to see like that charted over time, right? So line chart maybe isn't appropriate, but I can change that later.
Okay. So did you want, so if line chart isn't appropriate, did you want like a bar chart? And
Yeah,
then
so
you
I was thinking more of a
do the
bar
months?
chart is where my head was going, but
All right, I'm gonna, I have a tiny bit of experience with this chart, so let's see if we can make that last through your use case. All right, so how do you have it structured to keep track of these things in the database?
so the database has just kind of two elements. We have a running list called transactional data set of all check-ins. So this here is just going to be a running list of all check-ins that we have.
Okay.
I'll probably show you this here instead. Just tracking like, oh, who's the creator's gender thing. Some of this is old, we're going to get rid of. And then we're tying that to the company, which would be like our business.
Okay.
And a list of check-ins, which is in here somewhere.
Okay. Okay. So I think we'll probably not use the list of check-ins on the company. Just in general, I try to stay away from that because you're going to have more and more check-ins over time.
Yeah.
And there's a hard stop at 10,000 things references in a list for Bubble. Not 10,000 records in Bubble, but 10,000 things that are in a field referenced in Bubble.
Got it. So like the association of the company and the list of check-ins for that company.
Right, which you probably wouldn't get to very fast anyway, but just because that exists, and I'd rather, and it's so easy to reference it with a search for check-ins that the company equals the company that you're looking for. I think it just makes sense to go ahead and set that up that way.
Yes, I think that's maybe what I've done instead.
Okay. So, yep, I see that. And then the difference is that you're going to be asking Bubble to do quite a bit of work just up front here. What I would do is I would probably create check-in tallies for each company. And then the tally would, you could set it up and make it for a specific month. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
So like when a new check-in is created, you would go ahead and update the a tally, like a field on a separate data type. And then that's the data type that you would be looking for here. And the company would be the constraint on that. I can kind of show you what I mean if you'd like.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think I'm following, but.
So this is like the same method that I would use for like a leaderboard.
Yeah.
So what I do is you've got so the seed check-in tally is going to have a company reference just like your check-in does. So, and then it's going to have a probably a start date, which will be a date. And this is going to be midnight on the first date of the month, right? And you don't need to keep track of the end date, I don't think. And then you're going to say the tally will just be a number field. And so then for the check-ins, you probably already have the check-ins working the way that you want them to, right? So you've got company. And then all of that other information, right? So what I would recommend is then going into the backend workflows, create a database trigger. So whenever the thing before change is empty, probably. Why are you doing that? That's weird, Bubble. Oh, I have to fill this out. So, actually, it's a check-in. So check-in before change is empty, and check-in now is not empty. Then what we want to do is, depending on if there already exists a tally for the current month, we're either going to create a tally and add it to that tally, or we're just going to add a count to that tally. So what we'll do here is create a new thing, and the new thing would be a check-in tally, and the company will be the check-in nows company, and the start date will be current date and time rounded down to month. And the tally would equal, if we're creating a new one, it would just be 1. And we're only going to do that if a search for check-in tallies where the company equals the check-in nows company and the start date equals current date and time rounded down to month. Count is less than 1. And if this doesn't run because it's more than 1, then what we're going to do is we'll make changes to the search for that tally, check-in tally. And we'll just switch it to be greater than 0. Right? And then for the tally, what we'll do is we'll say this tallies tally, and then we'll just add 1. So every time there's a new check-in that's created in the database, it will either create a new tally if there isn't one already, or it will add one to the existing one, right? And if you wanted to, you could set up like a recursive workflow for each of your companies to create a new tally. Like at midnight on the first day of the month, you could do a recursive workflow and create a new tally for every company. And then you would just need this one here. You wouldn't need to this step. So, and then it'll make it really easy for you to do your chart, because now your chart is just going to search for the tally with the company, and where the you separate it out by month. And then you're just showing the number that's in this count here
Okay.
instead of asking Bubble to count everything in real time.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, I'll give that a shot.
Okay.
Let's
If
see
you want, we can do it right now. We can give it a shot now.
Yeah, if we've got time and there's no other things to do.
Yeah, I think, Brittany, is that cool? Do you have anything else for today? I think we're good to go, Chris.
Okay. Okay, so let me see if I can find, this will be my running list of check-ins. That's good. Here's my companies. And then we just need the tally is what you're calling it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You can call it whatever makes sense. Like
That
checking count.
works for me.
Yeah. And start date.
Also doing this kind of as a series with like by gender, if you will.
Oh, sure.
Want to include that, I assume.
Yep.
And for the start date, could we use?
Now, so I think what you would want to do instead of the gender series being a reference to a gender, I think what you'd want to do is you would want to go ahead and separate those out in fields and keep count of which gender at the time.
Okay. So it'd be like gender tally.
Yep. So you could do gender tally for, I don't know if you're doing just male and female, but whatever your differentiation is,
I'd have
you would have one for each one. Yeah. And then I think I interrupted you. You had a question.
Oh, we're good. So company, I have male, female, prefer not to say, and then you said start date. The question I did have was start as opposed to using something like created or modified. Could you use modified or any of those? But I guess
no, you definitely want to do the start date because you want it to be midnight on the first day of the month.
Yeah, I'm fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that. From here,
so yep, you're going to do a database trigger. And it's the thing you're going to be doing, yep, is comparing it to the check-ins. I think in here, like click outside of that, it didn't throw an error, so maybe it'll be okay. But oftentimes in backend workflows, I'm just super sensitive. I don't use spaces and I do everything in lowercase. I know with API workflows themselves, it throws an error if you don't.
use underscores. Would that be all right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. I don't know. Type. You might have to guide me here.
Yep. So hang on just a second. Let me move something on my screen. So now only when is going to be, actually the type is going to be check-in, not check-in tally. And then only when is going to be when check-ins before change is empty. and check-ins after change, or check-ins now, is not empty. Okay, Ben. And then the reason that is because what this is telling Bubble to do is it's listening for new check-ins. So any new check-ins that happen are going to trigger this this workflow. So then if you click to add an action, which do you prefer? Do you prefer to recursively create a new check-in tally each month for all of the companies? Or do you, I think that probably makes sense for the charting, because you're going to, even if there are 0 check-ins in a month, you would still want to count that month.
I mean, I want to see this run, like, I want to see this update daily.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like we have 2 check-ins today. I see 2 check-ins for February. Tomorrow there's 2, and then I should see 4 on Friday. Right. 2 + 2, 4.
Right. Well, this will be in real time. So the check-in tally like will make your chart accurate, up to date, like within a few seconds.
Okay. So it doesn't matter to me how we.
No, I'm just thinking about empties. Like, are you going to have any companies that have 0 check-ins for a month?
Up front, definitely.
Yeah.
So
I think, and you would want that reflected on the chart, right?
yeah, we would. Yep.
Okay. So then I think probably we'll do a recursive workflow to go ahead and create the new check-ins at the beginning of each month. But we can go ahead and still do the same actions that I did before. So the first thing would be data things, and then create a new thing. And it'll be a check-in tally. And then, yep. The company will be the check-ins company. Check-ins now company. Yep, and then go ahead and set another field. And the start date will be current date and time, rounded down to month. And then the tally. So in the check-in, you know the gender, right?
Correct.
So you would need to set each one of those fields. You can do. So how do you know from the check-in?
So check-ins have the gender, like the current user's gender.
Okay, so let's do this. Check-in now is creator gender, and then is female, and then formatted as text. Then if it's formatting for yes, then what you're going to do is say this. So highlight yes, and then insert dynamic data. You're going to say oh, if we're creating one, then you would just type 1 for yes. Yep. And then for no, you would just type 0 or leave it empty, either one. And then what you want to do is convert that to a number.
We do the same thing for each.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then do we have any more fields?
Those right now are all I really care about.
Company start date. Oh, no, we have the regular tally, right?
Oh.
So the tally itself. Create new field. I think we forgot to add it.
Yeah. I'm gonna call it total tally.
Yep, and it'll just be one because we're creating it right now. And then we're only going to do this when a search for tallies for this month is less than 1. The company. Check-ins now company. And then the start date. Current date and time rounded down to month.
You said less than 1.
And the count is less than 1, yeah. Yep, perfect. And then now we'll do, the next action will be to update the tally or modify, make changes to things.
4.
So thing to change is not actually that, it's you're going to do the search for the tally for this month. Yep. And then you also need to constrain by the company.
Okay.
And then the first item. Yep. And then now you'll do the same thing. You won't have to update the company part of it, but each of those tallies, the 4 tallies, you will. And you can copy and paste, I think, from the other one. It's not, you have to set the label, the field. Yeah.
Maybe.
Is it not letting you?
No, it's not letting me.
No, you have to select the field that you're modifying. So click where it says click.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Select. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. There's female.
And then total tally. And this check-in tally. Nope, actually, I'll just go ahead and clear that out. And it's this check-in tally, total tally, and then add 1 to it. Oh, no, sorry. You click more. And then go to the plus sign, yeah. And then just type 1. And then if you want to copy the only when from the previous step, and then you want to just change it to greater than 0. There you go. Awesome. So that's going to create your the tally things in your database. Now, when we go back to your, let's go ahead and do the recursive workflow to create the tallies each month. So if you click to add a workflow at the end of the line, it'll just be a new API workflow. You could have done a recurring event. I forget that recurring events exist because I do everything recursively.
Yeah.
But create tallies, you can call it whatever makes sense.
The recursive queen.
Yeah, I love recursive workflows. And then go ahead and see here. So click to add an action. Just think here. Yeah. I'm just thinking through this particular recursive workflow. Just give me a moment. I think go ahead and create a new thing. And what we want is to create a new tally, check-in tally. And set another field. And the company Oh, I know how we can do this. Okay, so let's go click to add another action, and we'll just put this action in front. So make in data, you'll make changes to a list of things. And yep, and you'll search for companies, do company. And the list to change is going to be do a search for companies. Because we need a fresh list of companies. I assume you're adding companies every month, right?
I'm adding companies potentially daily. Yeah.
So we need companies. Let's switch it around. Let's do type of things that we're looking for is check-in tallies. And then switch the type of thing to check-in tallies. Oh, actually, I was wrong. Keep it companies and type of things, but we'll do the search for check-in tallies because your check-in tally has companies to it. So, and actually, no, not the company. Go ahead and delete that one. What we want is the start date equals, and it'll be current date and time rounded down to month. And then so if you go to the list to change over where it's red, and you want each item's company, yep, there you go. So that's your list of companies that you
Check-ins for.
Yeah. So actually go back to the search constraint. And instead of equals, put does not equal. Or equals. Because we want it where the search for I kind of want to play with it myself. Okay. Go make it equals again, because I think what I did is I just jumped the gun on each item's company. So go ahead and subtract that out, like erase each item's company at the end of that, and say search for check-in tallies where the start date equals trying to think of a way to avoid having to keep track of the check-in tallies on the company. But the check-in tallies on the company is not, having 10,000 of those would take you through 10,000 months, which I think is probably okay.
Yeah.
So I think maybe if we go to the database and we put a field on the company to keep track of the check-in tallies. Yep, check, let's scroll up a little.
Oh, there it is.
Yep, and make it a list. Yep. And then if we go back to the workflow, then what we're going to do is we're going to search for companies. Where the start date, we might have to delete that out. So companies where the check-in tallies contains, do a search for, no, this isn't going to work. It's going to be too many things to search. I guess we could just leave it with the trigger. The database trigger will just create the tally for the month. How would we do that? We need a list. Maybe we could separate it into two. So create tallies. Go back to the other workflow where it says create tallies and add a parameter to the API workflow.
This one.
Nope, create where it says create tallies. It's 2 over. Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
Yep. And then go ahead and add a parameter and we'll call it companies. And it'll be of type companies and it'll be a list. And then check that it's a list. Yep. And then what we want to do is create a new check-in tally where it says step 1. For company, it'll be company first item. And then the start date will be current. Yep, set another field. The start date will be current date and time rounded down to a month. And then only when companies count. So if you click where it's only when.
Say it again.
So for only when company count is greater than 0. Nope, you have to click where it says is. Yeah. Nope, sorry, is greater than is like the whole, yeah. It's greater than 0. And then the next one, in step 2, you can go ahead and delete that. And go ahead to click to add an action, and you're going to do a API workflow. And it'll be the same workflow that you're on, where it says create tallies. And the scheduled date will be current date and time. And the companies will be company, and then click more. after company, minus item, company's first item. And then only when company count is greater than 0. Okay. Have you ever done recursive workflows before?
No, not really.
Okay, so what we're going to do is so I think I'm going to try to keep this one all in one, and we'll see if it works. Otherwise, we'll have to split it into 2. Essentially, recursive workflow is like your recurring events that you can set in the backend workflows, but you can do as little as like every second, right?
Sure.
And so what we've done is we've created a loop, and we're using the conditions in those actions to make sure that it stops at some point. So it's not an infinite loop.
Sure.
So it will keep subtracting a company from the list of companies until we don't have any more companies to loop through.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yep. And then what we have to do is we have to somehow get a fresh list of companies into this workflow. So I think if you add an action and make changes to a list of things, and just it'll be type company, and then just do a search for companies. And then on the, there's no constraints. It'll be all of the companies. Then we'll only do that when the company count is zero. Guess. Oh, okay. So if we go back to the API workflow itself, let's check on optional under where it says company, and then add a new parameter. I guess, oh, yeah. So the new parameter, we can call it initial and make it yes or no. And then, yeah. And then, so what we would want to do is step 3, we're going to make that step 1. And then we're going to insert another action, and it'll be to schedule the same workflow. Current date and time. And then the company's list will be the result of step 1. And the initial will be no. And then we will only do that when the company's count is 0. Or sorry, I should say less than 1. I don't know why Bubble doesn't like it when you use is 0. Is less than 1. And we'll add to that. And initial is yes. And then drag that to step 2. And just click in there and make sure that it's stayed. Okay. And then we want to add that same and initial is yes to step 1. And we can say company count is less than 1.
No, right?
Initial is yes.
Yes, on this one.
Yeah. And then now for step 3, we want to put end initial is no. And in step 4, also an end initial is no. And then for that, you want to make no. All right, and then the last step here is we want to, at the end of it, schedule that workflow one more time. And company, we're going to leave it empty. And initial is going to be yes. And it's going to be current date and time plus rounded down to month, and then plus 1 month. Yep, just months, and then click where it says more and you can type 1. There you go. And we're only going to do that when the company's count is less than 1 and initial is no. There you go. So this is a very complicated first recursive workflow, and if somebody can correct me on a more elegant way to do this, please do let me know. Always looking to improve my recursive skills. But essentially what we're going to do is we'll trigger this one time, and then you will never need to trigger it again. It will be automated from then on out. And the first time we trigger it, it's going to search for the companies that exist today in that step 1. It's going to take that list and it's going to put it into the company's parameter in step 2. And then it's going to schedule the workflow to run again with a list of companies. When it runs again, the initial will have been changed. So if you click in step 2, you see how it switches the initial to no. So when it runs again, it won't run step 1 and step 2, it'll run step 3 and 4. And it will keep going through that list of companies until there aren't any more companies left. And then it will schedule itself to run again at the beginning of next month.
Okay.
And that should create all of your tallies for your companies. To trigger it, you just need to, do you have a test page that you work with?
Not really. No.
So you can just make like a really quick test page or just a button on one of your pages. It doesn't really matter. All you have to do is click it one time. Just a button.
Scrolling bar does not want to work today.
And then schedule that workflow to run. Create tallies and schedule date, current date and time. And you leave the company empty and initial will be yes. And then click there to ignore the privacy rules. In step 1, check where it says ignore privacy rules when running the workflow. And then if we'll go back to the back end for just a moment, we'll check that box on there as well. Just ignore privacy rules when running the workflow. And then you probably want to check each of the times, the 3 times that you schedule that workflow in the actions. Ignore the privacy rules. Yep, and if you go back to your test page, and preview it and click the button, then we can go and make sure. You have some test companies, I assume.
Okay.
So if you go into your database and app data,
Companies.
and you want to look for check-in tallies. If you cancel out of there, go to check-in tallies.
Oh, I clicked right below it. Oops.
There you go. So does that look right, or is it still working through the list of test companies?
Yeah, this is a list of test companies, but and then I.
So these are check-in tallies, right?
Yeah.
So you just created those.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And then to test them out, what you want to do is create a check-in for one of them, and you should see it update.
So I just add a check into this. I don't think I need anything else.
No. And if you go to the check-in tallies.
Sweet. Yes.
Yeah.
1, 0. Total check-ins at 2.
That's weird. How would it have been 2? I guess.
I don't know.
That's weird. We would need to debug that, but that shouldn't be the case, because if it created a new tally by accident, it would still just be 1. We can go back and look at that, but real quick, I want to just go and make sure if you go to the logs on the side and go to scheduler and show. Create tallies. Yep, you have one and it's scheduled for midnight on March 1st.
Cool.
And that's cool, because that will create all of the tallies to begin with for each month. But like if you have a user who's in a time zone ahead of you and they have a check-in before you've created the tally, it will create the tally for it then.
Awesome.
I'm trying to think. We did not put a fail-safe in there to keep it from creating 2 different check-in tallies if there already exists one in the recursive workflow. So you might want to think through that and add that in as a fail-safe. Do you feel strong enough to comfortable enough to figure out the problem with the 2?
Yeah, I think so. I think I can figure that out.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. That was fun.
I think I can easily replicate this now, like with the other metrics of it. Like I want to do it for reviews and other things as well. So
yeah,
it's helpful.
Yep. And if you get stuck on the chart itself, you can give us a shout back too as well.
I might grab some time with someone for 45 minutes or an hour or something soon. So
perfect.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Ben, do you have any questions before we wrap up office hours for today?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, we're going to move into after hours, so you don't have to go anywhere. But after hours is what happens when we turn off the recording, and we can do things that are more sensitive in nature. Like if we have anything from our members and they want to show us on screen, but they don't want to broadcast it to the rest of the world later. We save that for after hours. If you want to attend office hours or after hours or both, then you need to go sign up at pronocoders.com. Thanks everybody for watching.